I am Professor Arvind Kumar Jha from School of Education IGNOU, and today I'll discuss a topic, educational philosophy of Western philosophers, particularly Plato and Rousseau. In this video, we'll discuss some points which are very important, which need to be kept in mind while listening and watching this video. So the first point that I'll discuss is concept of philosophy and education, mutual relationships between education and philosophy, and then discussion, analysis, and the reflections on the concept and educational thoughts of Plato. Similarly, I'll also discuss, analyze, and reflect on the concept and educational thoughts of Rousseau. Let us start to understand philosophy, education, and their mutual relationships. See, we all know that there is a complementary, supplementary, and integral relationship that exists between philosophy and education. Now, the question arises, what is philosophy? What is education? And how are they related? Why you all, being students of Bachelor of Education program, should study philosophy to become a teacher? Let me start with etymological definition. Etymologically, philosophy is love for knowledge and wisdom as it figures in Greek system of thought. You all know, I don't need to repeat, philo plus logos, that is love for wisdom. In this sense, wisdom is not confined to knowledge only, but value and reality also. Plato, in his famous book, The Republic, says, "He who has a taste for every sort of knowledge and who is curious to learn and is never satisfied may be just termed as a philosopher." In modern time, friends, philosophy is perceived as a discipline which is a rigorous, disciplined, and guarded analysis of some most difficult problems which man has ever faced. So you can say it is a rigorous, it is a disciplined, and it provides guarded analysis. So as a discipline in philosophy, now the question is, what do we study? We study epistemology, theory of knowledge. We study ontology, theory of reality. We study axiology, theory of values and ethics. And we also study metaphysics. But along with these, we also study socio-political philosophy related to the modern problems in our present society. Now, what is education? I'm of the view that as the perception, so the education. That is why all the great minds have defined education in its unique way. More concretely, education is perceived as understanding and development of the persona of the individual, which includes the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and moral development of the inner power of the individual. It is about how to become a human being having unique sense of morals and values. I would like to quote Adams, who has rightly remarked, education is the dynamic side of philosophy. It is the active aspects of philosophical belief. Therefore, friends, what I want to say is this, that both philosophy and education are integrally and interdependently related to each other. Let's take an example of Ross, who has written extensively on philosophy and education. And according to Ross, philosophy and education are like the two sides of the same coin. The one is implied by the other. Here, the former is the contemplative side of life, while the latter is the active side. So, we can say that philosophy is the thinking process of life, and education is functional part to materialize the thinking process. Therefore, friends, it is correct that many people consider philosophy as a professional tool, But I would like to assert here that philosophy is not only a professional tool for the educator, but also a way of improving the quality of life, because it helps us to gain a wider and deeper perspective on human existence and the world around us. And therefore, if you look at the contents with which education is concerned, education centrally involves the fostering of reason or rationality and emotion or emotionality. There is a time when rationality and emotionality used to considered two separate entities. But in modern time, things have changed, and this change is due to a lot of research. So today, education is not confining itself to the contents of reason or rationality and emotion or emotionality, but also relational rationality, and that is one of the focus of today's educational discourse. Now, let us talk about establishing relationship between philosophy and education. Philosophy guides the goal towards which education should be directed towards. Education is a discourse which seeks guidance for its practice from which? From nothing but philosophy, or you can say philosophy of life. So philosophy helps the education planners to identify and use various aspects of education, like methods of teaching, principles of teaching, curriculum, and the role of teachers and learners as well. So it is not always philosophy, but education also provides fodder to philosophy to think and ponder over it, and particularly its contents and intents both. So philosophy provides, you can say, the aims of life, whereas education is a means to achieve those goals. Now, as I said in the beginning, today we'll be discussing about two great thinkers and philosophers, Plato and Rousseau. Let me start with Plato. Who's Plato? Plato was a philosopher during 5th century BCE. His most famous work is The Republic, which details a wise society run by a philosopher. And as a student of education, I'll advise you, please read Republic. If you can't read it full, at least read its summary, and it is available everywhere. He is also famous for his dialogues, early dialogues, middle dialogues, and late dialogues, which showcase his metaphysical theory of forms. And education, in its abstract sense, does talk about forms. Plato also founded the academy, where it was written, "Dare not to enter if you do not know mathematics." What's the conclusion of this statement? Because of this statement, you can say that he became known as the maker of mathematicians, and his belief that mathematical reality is the ultimate reality. Now, let me talk about education. Plato regards education as means to achieve not only knowledge and means to survive, but also it is a means to achieve justice, both individual justice and social justice. So according to Plato, individual justice can be obtained when each individual develops his or her ability to the fullest. So developing one's ability to the fullest is a kind of justice, individual justice for Plato. And in this sense, justice means what? In this sense, justice means excellence. And you all know, for the Greeks in general and for Plato in particular, excellence is virtue. His educational thought is based upon idealistic principles of education. Plato defined education as training for the country and love for the nation. So, according to Plato, idea or concept is the ultimate truth. You all know nation is an idea and nothing else, in its most subtle and abstract sense. He imagined that there are two types of world, a spiritual world and a physical or material world. He believed that human is a combination of both spiritual and physical elements. Human body is built of physical elements and the soul is spiritual. Self-control, justice and liberty. All these three things are necessary for moral and character development. And that's why Plato described that the aim of education is not merely providing information but training the individual in his duties and rights as a citizen. In his opinion, I quote, "The aim of education is human perfection." And with this end of view, he suggests a curriculum which comprehends all subjects. Now, I'll be talking especially about the educational thoughts of Plato. Plato, as I said, please read his book, Republic. Plato in his Republic discussed the universal nature of education. He was a strong supporter of mass education. To him, education in the laws is to be universal, not restricted to a class of people. He was a strong supporter of compulsory education as well. And compulsory education is the key for him for one's potential's development. His concept of education was political, as he supported pupils shall be regarded as belonging to the state rather than to their parents. And it is therefore educating the child is not only the responsibility of the parents, but also it is the responsibility of the state. You can think of a context of in the context of India, why the government spends so much money to educate people. The thought of Plato's universal education has been materialized across the world. And therefore, in short, it will be right time to talk about the important points of educational thought of Plato, which if you keep in mind, it will be easier for you as a practitioner to correlate between philosophy and the education in which you engage yourself as a subject teacher, as a student teacher, or as a teacher of the society and the nation as well. So what are those points? The first important point is the ultimate aim of human life is self-realization, which can be possible through true values like truth, beauty, and goodness, which in our own culture has been conceptualized as Satyam, Shivam, and Sundaram. The second very important point is best and able citizens are necessary for the best nation. Nation will never become best if its citizens are not the best. So the development of good citizenship among students should be the aim of education. The aim of education should also be for the development of good persona or good personality. Human beings are psychophysical species. So, balanced development of physical and mental aspects of the human being should be the function of education. Plato's idea can be integrated with the curriculum, with the methods of teaching, with your life as teachers. Plato, as I said earlier, and I would like to repeat here, accepted education as a lifelong process, and that's why he suggested comprehensive planning and a structure of curriculum. He advocated that language, history, logic, mathematics, geography, and science are necessary for the intellectual development of the child. Many people ask me why mathematics should be compulsory till secondary level. For logical and intellectual development, that is necessary. He suggested not only these subjects, but inclusion of arts, gymnastics, music, craft and sports in the curriculum. He supports knowledge of spirituality, ethic and spiritualism and even religion as necessary for moral development of the child. He considers physical education and self-defense not only for individual development of the child, rather necessary to save the nation. He advocated, as I said earlier, good citizenship, a spiritual, value and moral-based education to be included in the curriculum. We all feel that the civic education should be the compulsory part of our curriculum so that we can inculcate civic sense among the citizens of a great nation, India. Plato suggested using lecture, discussion, quiz and activities as the methods of teaching. And more importantly, the dialogue. Dialogue should form the central and core aspect of educational interactions. And that's why he emphasized that reasoning method, question-answer method, conversation, self-study and imitation method should be used as teaching method. Giving importance to women education, he suggested that women should acquire training of gym, game, defense, etc. Plato also considered that the place of the teacher should be the highest in the society, and therefore, so that a teacher should be and should become the ideal for the students. And more importantly, Plato said that a teacher should be loyal towards his or her duties. And similar thing you will find in our religious text, the Gita. One who is devoted to his own duties attains highest perfection in life. And Plato in 5th century BC advocates the same in Greece. Now friends, after discussing Plato, I'll discuss Rousseau. His full name was Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He was one of the prominent naturalistic philosophers of education. And his ideas on education has been written in his famous publications like, if you get the opportunity, please take out time and read these things. The Progress of Arts and Science, Social Contract, Neo-Heloise, and Emile. Among all these, the first thing that you should read is Emile. Then of course you can read Neo-Heloise, Social Contract, and of course the Progress of Art and Science. But Emile you must read. It's available everywhere, and not only in English but in other languages as well. Rousseau's naturalist philosophy shows in three forms. The first is called social naturalism, second psychological naturalism, and the third is the physical naturalism. According to Rousseau, everything is good as it comes from the hands of author of nature, but everything degenerates in the hands of man. And that's why he has said, nature is the only pure, clean and ennobling influence. Though I don't want to quote, but Rousseau very boldly said, human society is thoroughly corrupt, and therefore man should be freed from the bondage of society and should live in the state of nature. But the ultimate question, how is it possible? Because somebody has said, a man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. Human nature, according to him, is essentially good, and it must be given fullest opportunities for free development in a free atmosphere. And that's why he was a strong critique of the traditional system of education or the routine kind of education. Education should not be the bondage of routine affairs in this world. He was against feeding knowledge to students without understanding. He emphasized so much on understanding. But one question for you, have you ever thought about when you say you understand or you have understood, or when any person on this earth claims he has understood it, what happens actually? He believed that the child has his own ways of seeing, thinking, and experiencing, and they should not impose principles or methods to be followed. They should be free to understand and study the content the way they like. And that's why he was also the supporter of that the curriculum should be modified time and again. It should be flexible in nature. And teachers should provide contents which are flexible in nature to the students to study, to understand. He was also supporter of negative education. Explaining his new system of education, Rousseau said, "Give me a 12-year-old child who does not know anything. By 15 years of age, I'll teach him so much as other children read in 15 years of early life." Unquote. Now, let me talk something about his negative education. According to him, negative education is a self-education, and it is the education of the sense organs and body. He believed in engaging children to learn in the natural environment. He said, when the child learns in playground, it is many times more useful than what the child learns in the classroom. In his famous book, Emile, Rousseau suggested meaningful education for the infancy, for the childhood, for the adolescence, and for the youth. At the infancy stage, Rousseau suggested to allow the child to freely engage in playing and exercising his body and remaining active. To train the instinct, the child should be made free to experience and indulge in good things. As far as the childhood stage is concerned, Rousseau has suggested to learn through experience and observation. He suggested that the development of sense organ is the aim of education at this stage. As far as adolescence stage is concerned, Rousseau suggested that the aim of education should be to develop adolescent personality through hard work, guidance, and study. At the stage of youth, Rousseau suggested that the aim of education should be to achieve the bodily, the sensory, the mental, the social and moral development of the individual. Rousseau, being a naturalist, he was against book reading and rigid curriculum, especially at the early stage of life. He suggested a formal curriculum only at the stage of adolescence. And the methods which engage the child in hands-on activities and learning by doing something was given importance by him. And all these points one should keep in mind while thinking about curriculum and methods of teaching. He has also talked about the importance of learning to live. Being a naturalist philosopher, Rousseau suggested some of the disciplinary practice in education. There are so many. I'll just cite 2 or 3. He advocated complete freedom to the child. No imposed punishment. Only the child can experience natural punishment that can further direct the child to do the right and good things. And for him, obedience to natural law, because neglect or violation of these laws invariably leads to pain and suffering. Friends, there are many more things that can be discussed here, that can be analyzed here for your benefits, but I would like to end here by just suggesting you, please read 2 works, the original and authentic work, the Republic and the Emile, to have better understanding on Rousseau's ideas of human being and education. Similarly, Plato's ideas of what education should be. In the end, thanks for your patience listening and watching.